What's up, Blue Hedgehog Nation? This is PCSRA Blue Hedgehog 26. Hopefully everybody's doing well today, because I am too. Before you watch today's IMSA Podcast episode, I have several things that I need to go ahead and mention right now. First of all, I'm going to be taking some days off as far as the being on Discord, because I know how chaotic it's going to get and all that, so it is for my greater good and all that, so yeah, really sorry about that, but it's for purpose reasons, and with the fact that I have a really crazy schedule, plus I have to be somewhere Saturday, so I will not be able to do reactions for neither the Xfinity race nor the truck race and the Cup race on Sunday, because I have some important things that I need to be doing right now. So I'm probably going to be only watching the IndyCar race this weekend, so that's the only thing I'll be watching as far as that's concerned. So hopefully you understand. If you don't, please leave me a comment down below as far as that's concerned. So with that being said, please enjoy the IMSA Podcast, and I will see you later on. Ciao.
This is the PCSRA Radio Network and the Blue Hedgehog TV. We now interrupt your regular scheduled programming for the following sports special. This copyrighted broadcast is presented by the authority of the International Motorsports Association for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction or rebroadcast, retransmission, or other disseminations or the use of this broadcast, descriptions, or accounts of this show without the express written consent of the International Motorsports Association is prohibited. On the PCSRA Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Welcome to the IMSA Podcast, presented by Toyota. Here's the voice of the PCSRA, Daniel Voiles.
And hello and good afternoon, and welcome here to the IMSA Podcast, as the PCSRA is on the air here on the PCSRA Radio Network, the Blue Hedgehog TV, and on the amazing app. Daniel Voiles here for the IMSA Podcast on this Wednesday afternoon, doing things a little bit differently than what we do normally on the show. And yeah, so really excited to see that, and it should be a lot of fun. So if you guys have any questions for the little video that I did prior to us coming on the air, let me know, and we can get this party started, all that. So yeah, should be exciting. We're going to recap the Petit Le Mans. That's the only thing we're going to recap today. We'll get our panelists' thoughts on the race weekend, go through some IMSA news and all that, and get you ready to preview the race on Halloween weekend, which is the Monterey Sports Car Championship at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Looking forward to that. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and get the results. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. I do apologize. Yeah, so. But let's introduce the only panelist who's joining me right now. Joining me is Mr. Zachary Taylor. We need to work on that growling speech before October 31st, okay? Alright. Yeah, that was kind of one of those creepy ones that screams, "Oh my gosh, somebody raped Kenny," and then Kyle's like, "You bastard!" Anyway, so let's just recap. Anywho, all jokes aside, let's recap the 10 hours of Sebring, or 10 hours of Road to Atlanta. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so it was a good race. Several controversy things happened towards the end of the race that we kind of expected, and it was a very interesting finish, and it was Wayne Taylor Racing took the checker flag in the victory for DPI. Gear Racing took LMP2, Porsche took GT Le Mans, and GTD was the Ferrari team, so that's good. So Here's the results. Ringer Van der Zinner, Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon were the winners. Ricky Taylor, Alexander Rossi, Elio Castroneves came home P2 in second. Sebastian Bourdais, Luc Duval, who missed DTM this weekend due to racing this race, he came home P4. Felipe Albuquerque, Felipe Nasser, and Pippo Durrani got 5th. Harry Tinkle, Ryan Hunter Ray, Jonathan Bombonito got 6th. And rounding out the DPI, 7th was Oliver Javis, Tristan Nunez, and Oliver Paya got 7th because they ran into some troubles in the race. Gabriel Auberly, Chris Miller, Matthias Lees rounded out the DPI field. For LMP2, Mikael Jensen, Jovan Urtelli, John Farrow got the win. Colin Brown, James McGuire, Matthew Bell second. Jacob, whatever his last name is, Rob Halverson, Austin McCuster got 3rd. And Simon Trommer, Scott Huffaker, and Patrick Kelly rounded out the field in LMP2. For GT Le Mans, Fred Mederici, Matt Campbell, Nick Tandy 1, Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, Nick Kasberg 2nd, Augusta Forrest, Jesse Krohn, John Edwards completed the podium 3rd, Marcel Fraslow, Oliver Gavin, Tommy Miller 4th, Lawrence Vandervoot, Matthew Jemet, Earl Bamber got 5th. Rounding out the field was Connor D. Felipe, Colton Herta, and Bruno Spengler. And then the top 10 for GT Daytona, Alessandro Poseidon, Jeff Westphal, Cooper McNeil 1. Jack Hawksworth, Michael Dick Quesa, and Aaron Tellez got 2nd. Andy Lally, Spencer Pompelli, John Potter 3rd. Jan Hayden, Ryan Hardwick, Patrick Long 4th. Dennis Olsen, Zachary Robachon, and Lars Kern round out top 5, finishing in 5th. In class, Alivo Pranti, Michel Goltenberg, Trent Hidman 6th, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, Corey Lewis 7th, Kyle Kirkwood, Frank Montecavo, and Townsend Bill got 8th, Bill Overland, Robert Foley, Dylan McDevitt 9th, Mario Fongbacher, Matthew McMurray, and Shayna McNeamy completed the top 10. So Taylor, what were your thoughts on Road Atlanta for the Petit Le Mans and the other IMSA races we had over this weekend at Road Atlanta? Definitely, and, you know, we always talk about how these, you know, endurance races, like, you know, the 10-hour race, of course, the Mobile 1 12-hour Sebring, of course, this normally would have been the finale, but it's not, so it's kind of rare, you know, normally this would be the finale, but it's not, if you ask me, so, in terms of the race, it was kind of exciting, you know, battles for the lead, pitch strategy, and, you know, incidents that, you know, kind of were controversy, but, you know, it was still a good Petit Le Mans nevertheless. So what would you rate the Petit Le Mans, speaking of rating? I'm going to give it a 10 for the entire weekend. It was really exciting, really good racing, and I felt like it was so much fun watching these competitors tackle this incredible beast, if you ask me. So, let's go over the top story, the IMSA news, after I edit the agenda. I forgot to do this. Whoops. That's alright, so, I do want to say that, you know, rare having 2 races at Road Atlanta, but it was kind of what we expected, and something we normally don't see on the calendar. Would you agree with me on that, Taylor? Alright. There we go. Now we got that agenda taken care of. Let's go to the IMSA top stories from this past weekend. If I remember, okay, 10.5 was the agenda, so let's start there. Starting with the first announcement, there's a few top story news. Oliver Pella is returning to run the full season for Acura DPI for IMSA next year. That's good news to hear. This one that came today or yesterday, if you're watching this on YouTube, which is premiering right now. Plath Motorsports planning full-time comeback in 2021 with the Porsche 911 next year, and will likely result in a restructured crew, according to team manager Steve. The Canadian squad team, which missed the majority of the season this year due to complications around quarantine rules amid the COVID-19 pandemic, made a one-off appearance in this past weekend's Petit Le Mans. It was their first IMSA race since the Rolex 24. What's your thoughts about that, Taylor? I think it's really going to be interesting to see if they can try to relocate to somewhere in the U.S., because I know it's really difficult for them traveling to every race because of the COVID-19 restrictions, but it's really good to see them, in action finally for the first time in a long time. So, as I mentioned earlier, if I can find him, the one who was in the Petit Le Mans, which was Luke Duvall, there's been some discussion he might be leaving DTM probably to focus on his career for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So, what do you think about that move, Taylor, if that were to happen?
Right now he's running a few races here and there, but would be very interesting if he did decide to leave DTM and come over to IMSA full time and be a driver full time. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really should be fun to see what happens, and hopefully, we'll give it a chance, if you ask me. So, yeah, should be fun. So. I think that is the only news we have as far as IMSA stuff is concerned, unless I look up on their website. Let me double check. What happened? Oh, let's check up the roundup. Oh, here's one I found on the website of IMSA. Aldera Motorsports, a two-time winner of the Rolex 24 Daytona, is returning to IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Competition. Mercedes AMG. The team will field a Mercedes entry in this. Let me check here. They're going to announce their driver lineup. Because the WeatherTech Championship season begins with the Roar before the 24 on January 22nd, followed by the Rolex 24 Daytona. So that's good news to hear they're coming back. You know what I mean? Is there anything I've not said? Want to send congratulations to Kingsley for winning the GT3 Cup finale at Michelin Raceway. The 22-year-old drove to a dominating win in the final race, and he widened his championship lead, so that's good. Swept the triple header at Mid-Ohio, and then made his IMSA debut last race at Charlotte 2 weeks ago at Charlotte. He will follow the GT3 Cup Challenge to the Grand Prix at St. Petersburg this upcoming weekend, which we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, on November the 2nd. So that's good to see some cool drivers from, the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge. And I think that is it for news. So that's a bit surprising to tell you. That's a lot of news. That's little news, and that's normally what we don't normally expect, if you ask me. So anyway, Da 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 da. So with that said, let's preview WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Of course, it used to be Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca until WeatherTech bought it out. So Taylor, question to you is this: with this race being the final race where IMSA is going to run without fans, except the corner workers there, what do you think we're going to see at Monterey, California? Do you think we're going to see some good racing, some interesting racing, or do you think it's going to be, try to stay out of the gravel pit and all that? What do you think we'll see?
do a good job trying to stay out of all the gravel pits and gravel traps and everything, and keep their car in one piece and try to stay on the racetrack. But Laguna Seca does have a few tight corners on the racetrack, so it's going to be important for those drivers to not overdrive the corner, do anything too crazy.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to do is, do something stupid on the track, if you ask me, because that would be the last thing you need to do is do something stupid, so. Of course, the race will take part at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. A network has not been announced. Let me check. What network would it be? Excuse me. What network it would be on if I look through Twitter. But it's not telling me unless I go to Laguna Sega's Twitter account. I think it says they're gonna... Oh, here it is. 6:30 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN. Okay, so that's the race. I think that will be probably quote-unquote a tape delay, but it will start at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be 3:05 Central, so that's something we're definitely looking forward to that. But you can watch the broadcast on NBCSN, so that should be fun. All right, what's your keys to the race, Mr. Taylor? Yeah. The thing I will say is don't do like what we saw in the IMCA race where you can cause a first lap crash, if you ask me, because that would be so stupid, because all that hard work going into the weekend has pretty much gone to waste. So I hope you guys are, hopefully that will be something we better keep our eyes on going into the races, how we can survive turn one. So I say keep an eye on turn one, the trouble spots, because we've seen in the past where we could have a big wreck in 1 and 2, especially that double left. That is the first, like, a couple of corners, because we've seen in the past where it's been crazy wrecking, so. Yeah. So, that's something I would say would be a good key if you ask me so far. Let's take a look at this week's upcoming IMSA Podcast events. As I said before, there's no show next week because we are... or actually, since we've already covered the race weekend at Road Atlanta, we'll be back on November the 2nd, which is a Monday, and if I'm not mistaken, daylight savings ends, so it'll be our first show with an extra hour of sleep, so that's going to be exciting. November 2nd, that will be a special date. I think it'll be either a 2:30 or a 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time start for the IMSA Podcast, because we're going to recap the Laguna Seca race weekend. Get our thoughts on it, rate the race, go through the news, preview the 12 hours of Sebrings that was originally supposed to be in March, but because of COVID-19, it's now the season finale, keys to the race, and our final thoughts. So that's something we're definitely looking forward to on that. Final thoughts, Taylor? Especially through the corkscrew area, right when you go up to the top of the hill and they come plunging down the hill. It's really one of the best parts about Laguna Seca. The only race, by the way, at Laguna Seca this year, because it was supposed to be with IndyCar, but of course it got canceled because of COVID-19, which I think is stupid. So, yeah. So that's a look at this week's upcoming... hang on. Somebody just... So, yeah, that's a look at this week's upcoming IMSA Podcast events brought to you by Red Carpet Charter, the official charter company of the PCSRA. The Oklahoma Highway Safety Office is a proud partner of the IMSA Podcast as well as the PCSRA, and we remind all of our friends that drinking and driving is deadly and illegal. Together we can end DUI. Visit enduyok.com for more details. Alright, Zachary, I will see you later if we don't talk again between now and then. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. So, that would be fun so far. Thank you to Zachary Taylor for joining me on the show. Also, thank Nathan Orman, David Heller, our statistician Caleb Hobbs, producer and engineer Zachary Fitzwater, Jackie Tang, Alex Hawkins, Dennis Stats Kelly, our spotter Greg Wood Black, engineer producer Michael Dean, Tom Shores, Greg Rutz, Crystal Fontaine, and Seth Summer and Daniel Johnson running the show for us back in our Learfield IMG College Network studios. Until November 2nd, this is Daniel Volos saying, Boomer Sooner, everybody.
This IMSA Podcast has been brought to you by Budweiser, Love's Travel Stops, iHeartMedia, The Oklahoman, Newcastle Casino, Devon Energy, Sonic Drive-Ins, Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, Harkins Theaters, and by Chevrolet. Thanks for listening to the IMSA Podcast. The preceding has been a Learfield IMG College presentation on the PCSRA Sports Network. Copyright 2020 by the Pacifica Sports Racing Association and the International Motorsports Association Incorporated.